Okay, so hello and welcome to the My Hero Academia podcast, episode 15.
Woo.
My name's Sophie.
And my name's Kendra.
This week we have a brief news segment, and then we'll be covering anime episode 62, and then we have a interview.
Ash is an editorial writer for the One Piece podcast. He is also on YouTube, and he is active on Twitter. If you want to check him out anywhere, we will give you all the ways that you can do at the end.
And now, on to the news. So the news is that Two Heroes is out in America. It's out September 25th, 26th, 27th, 29th, and October 2nd. It's going to be out dubbed and subbed. It's only in the US and Canada. You can look online and try to see if there might be some in other countries, but there's not as many. Kinko's is still doing the My Hero Academia pop-up shop. It's going on in Seattle, Chicago, Carleton, and Austin till the 30th. And there's also a new Vigilantes chapter. I haven't read it yet, but it sounds pretty cool. I recommend checking out Vigilantes. It's kind of just like a backstory, because it's set before My Hero Academia. It covers a few of the characters. Like, there's a Razorhead sometimes pops up on it, but it's not, like, required reading or anything. And also, speaking of before My Hero Academia, there's a bit of history about All Might, which is really, really cool. It's Chapter 0, or like All Might Rising or something.
Yep, and it just came out on Viz last week, so if you're going to see the film, it would be great to read it first and then go and see the film afterwards to get some background first.
Mm-hmm. And you have to have a Viz account to read it. And it's actually like really cool. We get to see a bit more of his master, or a little tiny bit. And we kind of also learn his origins. You can skip 20 seconds forward if you don't want to hear it. But we do learn that All Might is Japanese, and that he like goes overseas to America to train and to get away from All for One.
Viz also, to sign up to Viz, it is free, and I think the chapter is free at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think it's just that you might, I don't know if you can make an account if you're in like certain countries that they don't have like access to that stuff. So, like, depending on, like, what the licensing issues are in your country, you might not be able to read it. I don't really know enough about that, though. But I definitely recommend checking out, give it a try. It's it's really cool they even gave us. I honestly thought we would never get to read this legally. So it's really, really cool that Viz gave us this. Yay!
Cool. On to the anime review.
This is my hero academia. Manga news and more. Blossom drop. Ooh, they're my hero academia.
Okay, on to anime episode 62.
Woo!
And this is called A Season for Encounters. It covers a few manga chapters, but the first half just covers manga chapter 115, which that they skipped previously. We start with a blonde gentleman who has a long scar running down his forehead, and he's staring out the window while smoking and listening to the news. And his opening line is, "What's important is to know well who you are." Interesting first line.
Yeah.
We learn that it's the morning and he's watching people go contently to work. And first off, the people on their way to work look too happy to be going to work in the morning.
Yeah, I would just be like resting bitch face as I walked.
He doesn't think that these content people on their way in are a good thing. And then we hear his first argument with a mysterious voice who thinks that they are wonderful people. He's saying he's starting his day with cigarettes before a voice chimes in with, "And then it's all over," and we get a dramatic cut to the opening scene. Very quick. It's only 40 seconds. That's the fastest opener yet.
Yeah, and it was an anti-smoking ad too.
With it's all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets emphysema and dies.
Yeah, exactly. That's the real plot. That's why we're seeing this guy.
So when we go back in, we're told that it's been just 2 weeks since All Might retired. And since then, the media have been going wild trying to stir up unease. The media trying to stir public emotion for views. We hear newscaster Miyagi on TV, And he's saying that the image of All Might became too big for the public to really see him anymore. And now blonde-haired gentleman says that he likes Miyagi, and again we hear the mysterious voice, and this time he's disagreeing with him again. But our gentleman carries on saying that Endeavour is now the one who's causing a lot of the unease for the public, and he thinks that Endeavour looks like someone trying to be a superhero. But the mysterious voice disagrees him for a third time, correcting that no, Endeavour is a superhero.
I really did like when, like, a regular person pretending to be a superhero. Because, like, Endeavour, it doesn't seem easy for him. Like, he's powerful, but he doesn't have the personality for it. Like, All Might was kind of, like, made to be a superhero. Well, Endeavour is, like... I really love that line, because it really stood out to me. It's like, that kind of is a good way to describe Endeavour. He's just an angry guy who's trying to fight crime.
We see some of the most common search requests on Google for Endeavour, and one of them is Endeavour Kids.
Oh, I did not notice that.
It's like the fifth one that's mentioned. I wonder if it's like in relation to merchandise for Endeavour for children, or if it's people trying to find out about his actual children.
Yeah, because Todoroki, I guess he made a splash, or I can't think of a good pun. He was very cool, He was very cool during the sports festival. So many people were like, oh yeah, he's Endeavor's son, like let's look up that stuff. It's actually all just Inasa Googling.
Mr. Miyagi continues in the background, and we learn that Endeavour is quick to anger and often goes overboard, which we've not heard them say that before about his hero work, but it makes sense. Mm-hmm. He's also much less popular with the amongst adults compared to All Might. However, Mr. Miyagi continues and says that those in the media need to start trying to raise excitement for heroes and stop bringing up all the negatives instead of focusing on the positives. And I really like that. It's Miyagi taking on responsibility for what the media can do and focusing on how to better a situation rather than just use negative lines for clickbait.
Mm. So it's like actually trying to help instead of just being like a negative Nelly, Nancy, whatever.
We've got some information on Mr. Newscaster Miyagi from the manga. Shall I read
go
it out?
ahead. Yep.
So we learn in one of Horikoshi's side articles that Mr. Miyagi is known for providing accurate, simple and a balanced perspective on the news, which has led to him being trusted by most viewers. However, he does have some negative feedback, which I thought was very interesting. So his two horns are for his quirk, but he removed one of them so that it would stop interfering with footage being shown in the background and also with camera angles. Mm. But his removing of one of them led to some people believing that he was denying his quirk. It's a shame that this wasn't shown in the anime, because it turns out there's a human activist group who are speaking up about quirk rights and quirk discrimination. And I think quirk discrimination would be something, I'm sure it will be discussed in the future, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I kept thinking that he was going to do a little segue and talk about that, but it didn't happen. And I was like, that would have been a perfect place to put it in, talking about Miyagi.
But quirk discrimination, I'll keep that in the back of my mind for future chapters.
Yeah.
So we go back to the story. The TV is off and our gentleman is heading out the door. He's agreeing with Mr. Miyagi and thinking that weakening isn't actually about power, it's about heart. But the mysterious voice disagrees with him yet again, saying that no, it's not about heart, it is about power.
And that's what, like, the Deku and Bakugo fight was strength versus heart a bit. Like, that you need both to be a hero.
Yeah. To this, our gentleman, he just holds his head in his hand, telling the voice to shut up. We have a quick location change, and he's walking along the streets, thinking that All Might's tagline of "Don't worry, for I am here" is a curse for everyone that isn't a normal person. We then see an elated villain jumping out of a shop window ahead, and he's stolen something. And our gentleman is thinking that now the curse has gone, villains are starting to rise. And we see a real sci-fi style hero with a mechanical gun arm and a bandana appearing. He goes to stop the villain, but he's promptly taken out by a hit to the head from the back, because another villain is there and is hit him with a metal pole. He's taken out straight away, and we learn that these villains have teamed together and organised to create Team Reservoir Dogs.
I think they should be like Mr. Pink and like whatever the other colors are in that movie.
I've never seen it.
Neither have I. All I know is that Sanji was like based off of one of the guys loosely or something.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I think it's a heist movie or something. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, so Reservoir Dogs, for those that are younger, is based on the 1992 Quentin Tarantino film Reservoir Dogs, and it is a thriller heist, but I think it's quite violent. Okay, so our gentleman is thinking that villains are grouping up now more than before. However, as he walks into an alleyway, he thinks, we're looking for those who are more... And the phone rings, and who is it but villain broker Duran?
Yeah.
Duran?
Probably. I don't know how to say his name.
Duran, I'm going with.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone knows how to pronounce it properly, see if you can let us know phonetically.
Just yell really loud and maybe we can hear you.
So they start having a little bit of idle chit-chat at first, but our guy says then that he doesn't know if he's doing well or not, and then he starts to get upset that Duran hasn't answered him whether he's well. And we learn that there has been a large rise in demand for villain suits and gadgets. Duran says that the League of Villains has become the darling of the idiots, which is a great phrase.
Yeah.
So our guy, he says that that's nice, but the mysterious voice disagrees with him again. He tells the voice to shut up and asks Duran what he wants because he's a busy man, but the voice is getting more argumentative as time goes on, and he chimes in and says, "You're not that busy." And at this point, he goes from walking in a straight line to he's zigzagging. He's really struggling as he goes, and he's clutching his head now. Duran is still smiling, and he asks if he knows where Dabi is because Shigaraki wants to get them all together. Our guy says that first of all, he does know where Dabi is, but then he immediately backfires and says he doesn't know where he is, and he can't tell him whatever he wants. Duran then just tells him not to overdo it, which is nice. He understands he's going through a difficult point, and he's not pushing him.
He's just like, okay, wait, I probably kind of forgot who I was talking to. I need to be not make you, I don't know.
Yeah. We then cut to the next scene, and we see various villains going about their everyday life. And we see Spinner, and I'm really surprised that someone like him who sticks out so much with his bright purple locks and his reptilian green scales is just walking around in broad daylight.
Yeah, you'd think the cops would be onto him. Or I guess the cops might be they see him, but they don't want to catch just one. They want to catch all of them. So they probably know where he is. He's definitely on the cops' radar. Because the cops are, pretty competent in this series. So, he probably is the one who has to, stay away from everybody to make sure that they don't all get caught. He also doesn't seem like the brightest, so he's probably just, doesn't really get together at that. He's like, I'm just gonna wander around. Nobody knows who I am, but I don't have my headband on.
Yeah, because he's so easily identifiable. Even in this quirk world where where a large portion of the population look different, he really sticks out. But anyway, we learn that the League has split up for the moment, both because they're trying to conceal themselves, but also because they want to find other potential allies. Again, we see a group of villainous-looking persons. But I think this is why I want to hear from the quirk pride movement, because if you look like a villain due to your quirk and you're put in that box, is that going to ostracize these people even more so they then become villains?
There's a new Vigilantes chapter. I haven't read it yet, but the one before that kind of talks a bit about that. If you have a quirk that makes you gigantic, you have to get different housing, and it's actually super hard.
Then we're in another alleyway with said evil-looking chaps. There's a group of 6 of them, and they are insulting and threatening Dabi, who is there on his own. But that's not a good idea, because Dabi then burns them all to death.
Yeah, he also does the very cool, just his palm lights up and expands from there, and I just always, I love that animation detail. Yeah. He's we don't need people like that. And it's I guess, because they just seem more like punks, so they're looking for people who are, more hardcore. The villains all, kind of confuse me, because to be honest, they haven't actually done that much. They've mainly just attacked the UA students. They did that one thing with Stain and, the Nomu, but they were just kind of just causing chaos. Then they attacked the students again, and then the Kamino stuff was mainly their boss doing stuff, and that, all the casualties. But they haven't really, actually done that much.
I don't know, they're being clever about it, because they're not doing lots of little things that could lead to them being captured. They're going to do quite big things, because even though they're clashing with the students, their goal has always been to go for All Might.
Mm.
So they're doing, I don't know, they're not doing little things like robbing a shop. They're saving up their resources to do big things.
So like when they do act, it is big. So like I guess like the stuff they have done, like Kamino was huge, and I guess the stain thing was also pretty big because like there's the Nomu caused chaos and all that jazz.
But it's quite brutal that Darby just burns them all, because he says that he burns them because they don't need them, and also then he says, if you're trash, you could at least be kindling for me.
Yeah, that seemed like very brutal, and there's gonna be some stuff later in the manga that makes me like wonder why he did, like, it doesn't fit with what we see later. You know, I'm pretty sure this is also in the manga. It's just like, Dabi doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe he's just, because I thought maybe he's eliminating the competition, but they're not really strong enough to be competition for them. But maybe he's just trying out his quirk. He's seeing how much fire he can create and take out of it, maybe. But then we go back to our guy from the start, our blonde gentleman, and he's still in the alleyway. But he's a lot worse than he was before. He's keeling over and he's in obvious distress, saying that he's going to split in two. And then he puts on his mask, and we know that he is in fact Twice, the villain from the Forest training arc. And with his mask on, he says that he becomes one again. He turns around and starts walking out of the alleyway, but he's obviously much more confident than just moments ago, because he's walking in a straight line. He's got a full posture. It's a real quick turnaround for him, that mask.
Mm-hmm. And his mask is so tight, too, that you can, like, really see his nose. It's like a skin-tight mask, which is weird.
Because he says that it, I forget the exact phrase, but it ties him together, it binds him together.
So I guess that does make sense.
He then starts to tell us his story. We learn that his quirk Twice can turn one thing into two things. However, he can then multiply those things to make more. So he can make clones of himself and then clone their clones to make a team of clones.
It kind of makes me think of like an angsty Naruto.
Yes.
And also, okay, have you read Calvin and Hobbes at all?
No.
Oh, so the little boy and his like tiger, and they go on like imagination journeys or whatever, and he like has a cardboard box and he like makes a clone machine, and like at one point he like makes his clone go to school, and like he basically makes them as slaves, and then like the clone rebels. It's basically this plot.
So we learned that making a clone of himself is what he used to do when he was committing crimes in the past. But he used to also use them at home to do his bidding, like his chores and things. Mm-hmm. But the clones became unhappy with doing that. And there was a big en masse argument over who was the real Twice and who were the clones. And they had a fight that lasted for 9 days.
That's great. Like a week and 2 days. That's crazy. The 2 days part is what makes it like the detail in that. It makes it like visceral.
Imagine being involved in not just an argument, but a physical fight for 9 days. I don't think I could argue for 9 days, let alone be feisty about it.
Yeah, and I just like the things you make won't disappear without a certain amount of damage. So it's not like you can just tap them and they vanish. And you have to watch yourself die over and over again.
Yeah, and the result of the 9-day brawl was his forehead scar. And also it caused him to be unsure if he's the real one or not. But in the room, we see lots of white goo lumps around the floor and things, which I'm guessing are the clones. So it's likely that he is the real one, because we don't see a body there. But you can understand how someone would go a bit crazy.
Yeah, so I think someone on Reddit...
Do you know what? Not crazy. I'm going to go back and change that, because that's a really horrible term for someone with a mental health problem. So I'm sorry for that. Not crazy, but go into an illness with it. Yeah,
and I think... Oh, I wish I could credit them, but someone on Reddit was like, I wonder, what if the original, like, got away and, like, turned their life around, and it's the clone that's the villain or something? But he's probably the real one.
We'll find out. So he says there's nowhere for a crazy person to belong. Heroes only save good people. And he joined the League because they accept him as he is, and now he wants to accept himself too.
Mm-hmm. It just makes me so sad, because it's like, other people will like you. There's tons of people who have, like, mental illness and are accepted. Like, it's not a deal breaker. Maybe there's this, like, I guess even our society, too, is, like, shitty with mental illness. And, like, people with, like, schizophrenia or something, it's very much, like, in all the media, it's like, oh, they're the killer. They're, like, the they're scary. It's like, but really the person with mental illness is more likely to be like attacked than to attack someone.
Yeah, a lot of Twice's lines they're very poignant.
You could find people who like accept you and then just not commit crimes. But I guess they want to like change society and change All Might, like what All Might has built to help build society to be. You don't have to do crimes.
Well, I think he was committing crimes first.
Already, yeah.
But yeah, so shall I say my little bit about schizophrenia now, as we're talking about it?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's not shown that it's definitely schizophrenia, but it looks like it. So schizophrenia is where people will have images that can be visual, audio, they'll smell things that aren't there, they'll feel things that aren't there. We don't know exactly what the cause is. So for some people it can be diagnosed at a very young age, but it can also be triggered by traumatic events. So this could be triggered for Twice by the 9-day brawl. But we don't know if maybe there was an issue that was there already for Twice in the background. But also the other thing I wanted to say about this is because some people they use the term schizophrenia really loosely. Mm-hmm. So if someone's seeing things that aren't there for the first time, that's not schizophrenia. You can't just see something that's not there and be like, oh, they're having a schizophrenic episode. That's probably they're going through a stage of delirium. Mm-hmm. And that's an altered mental state and they need to go to the ER. Mm-hmm. But because it's all the time, it seems like he definitely has schizophrenia, so he needs to have maybe not medication if he doesn't need it, but he probably would. But he needs to seek some medical help.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to go on a little bit about what schizophrenia is, because you see a lot on the media with people not really understanding it.
And it's easy he'd like just say like crazy, and it's like, and even later in the episode, it like really hit home for me when Kaminari says crazy, and I was just like, that's interesting to put that right after what happened to Twice.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be more focused on mental health as the series goes on more. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get back into it. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Sad sideline.
Yeah.
So as Twice is walking along, he sees the heads of the team Reservoir Dogs sticking out of their getaway car, which is set aflame. It's a really horrible image, their heads and their arms just sticking out like that.
Ooh.
There's another group standing around them, and the leader is saying that he's disappointed that all the Reservoir Dogs wanted was just to steal a cash register when they could aim higher. The guy talking is wearing a beak-shaped mask, and it looks like that of a plague doctor. So
yeah.
Plague doctors were in 17th century France and Italy, and the mask that they use being shaped like a beak, a lot of the time it would be filled with sweet-smelling trinkets because they linked evil smells with illness. So they'd go around with these masks on to try and protect themselves as they're seeing their patients.
So he just smells like roses.
Yeah.
And it's also very like steampunky mask too. And that's the break.
Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, no, it's not? A bit more? Oh, yeah, he said some stuff.
So when you see one of his colleagues, he's also wearing a mask, but he's wearing the full mask because he's got the eyes on. But he's saying that they should leave before the heroes arrive because they've already got the money. And we learn that the leader's name is Overhaul. Dun, dun, dun. Overhaul calls the dead Reservoir Dogs sick. And then as Twice watches them from the corner, he reflects that the crazy ones and the heroes are starting to change rapidly. And as we leave the first part of the episode, Twice mirrors exactly what he said at the start. But with a bit added on where he says, it's important to know well who you are and where you want to go.
Da, da, da.
And that is the end of the first half. It's the end of chapter 115. And the second half is a mishmash of chapter 121 and 22. And then it finishes on chapter 123.
Yep. It's kind of funny. Deku has a house arrest sign on his door. And it's either Deku made it or Ida made it. I'm not sure which one. I find it like it's just a funny reminder. It's just like, why?
He just using his art and crafts for punishment.
Yes, and Bakugo probably has one up too, but Bakugo probably took it down, or maybe not. He's a bit of a rule follower, and he's just like his arm seems fine after yesterday, and he's just thinking like, oh, if I get too emotional, I can't control it, so I like shouldn't abuse that too much, because like if he could lose his use of his arms if he's not careful. And Zero is Mr. Jokes today, and he's just dropping lots of good one-liners. And Ida does some very funny, like, robot gestures. He's like, but he also is, like, genuinely upset with Deku and, like, disappointed, because it's like, when you go off and do stuff, I think it just reminds Ida too much of what he did during the Stain thing. And and Zero, when he was making jokes, he's kind of, like, making fun of Bakugo because he didn't clean stuff right. But Bakugo just blames it on Deku. And Monoma is just creeping in the corner, gloating, and he's like, oh, you had 2 people who failed, and he has a scary face. And Kaminari calls him crazy, which is interesting, what we've just seen with actually mentally ill twice. Kirishima is like, you failed, right? But he didn't, and he turns away from them and creepily smiles. It's like, they can't see you, but they all passed.
If Monoma fails, he really would be a great magician. Because he's got such a stage presence. Everything he does is theatrical.
He could be an evil magician. I hope Monoma doesn't become a villain. I want Monoma the origin, just so I can be, like, reassured that he's not going to be a villain. Because then, like, I think that's Kaminari calling him crazy. I think I do use crazy, too, sometimes, and then, like, watching this makes me like, you know what, I should really drop that from my lingo.
Let's all try and be better as a whole.
Yes. Oh, Tetsu is just saying hi. Like, he's just being nice. And Todoroki's kind of, like, being emo about it, and Kirishima's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And Pony scares me a little. Her voice is so girly, and it just really threw me off when I started hearing English words as well. It's very much broken mix of English-Japanese.
Her voice is the only one so far that I haven't liked because it's so high-pitched. I really don't like to criticise voice actors because I don't think I could ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
But...
And Monoma makes her say, like, I'm gonna kick your guy's ass or, like, beat you up so bad. And, Kato? What's it, Keto?
Kendo.
Oh, I forgot her name. Kendo hits Monoma. And Shinso, just wandering by, is like, don't block the word. I forgot how deep his voice is. I don't know if it's always that deep.
I wonder if they made it deeper because he's supposed to be buffer now, but he's so sassy. Don't show me how uncool you are.
And he's bulked up. And Ida's like, hey, we're blocking the way, get out of the way. And we cut to the principal doing his speech, and he does a very roundabout way from talking about his fur management to talking about needing sleep and having good hair.
He is right, though. Having a lot of sleep and not living a healthy lifestyle is terrible for your hair.
Mm-hmm.
But did you notice how they're all in the anime? They're all stood with military position.
Oh,
the students in their rows 4x4.
I don't know.
Imagine organising teenagers into those rows.
It was Ida probably did it to all of the classes. All the classes. Like, just say it. I love him. I love Ida. I'm sorry I rag on him a little, but I do love Ida with my whole heart.
I think they're just drawn like that in the anime to make it easier to draw, because in the manga they're all higgledy-piggledy, but it looks good like this.
Yeah. And Kaminari is so bored, he's like full on playing with Ojiro's tail. And I love that the principal's like on a little box because he is so tall. And he's talking again about the lack of the pillar, and it's already impacting the students, and there's chaos in the near future. And he mentions stuff about the work studies, dun 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 dun, blah 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 blah. And we see Kuro, who the guy who's all black with like white eyes. And he talks about the heaviness in the air, and you got to learn to become capable people, but for the moment forget that you are successors to society. It's like up to the teachers to like create the right environment for you, so just focus on being students, which I think is like a really nice message that they like don't get a lot.
Yeah. You're only teenagers.
Yeah.
Don't take on all the stress of the world.
And just as he's talking about successors, we get a flashback to the principal saying that UA is a good place to find a successor. I wonder if it kind of sounds like he's trying to recruit All Might. So I don't know if maybe he figured out All Might's situation or All Might told him. Like, I wonder if All Might was scouting out different schools for where to go to find a successor.
I don't know, because Nezu knows, doesn't he? But I think it sounded to me like he was trying to scout him, because he was really making the point. He was like, oh, you could find a good successor, and because you're limited with time to use your powers, this would be a good way to still be active.
Yeah. And we see the back of a blonde person's head. What could this mean?
Did you pick out all the unusual looking quirks in the crowd?
I picked out a few of them later, I think, but I know people were sharing the guy who has, like, a pencil head or something. Is he in the scene?
There's a guy with a blockhead. There's a girl who looks like a ram. There's a guy with a fish face. There's a gentleman that's got, like, a head and arms that are wolfy. There's two different guys that have got insecty looking eyes. And then there's a guy with a big iron jaw and another one that has horns for ears.
Ooh.
Yeah, very interesting quirks in the background.
I always do love them because it's always like they have, like, sometimes the manga will have it because the manga has detail, but sometimes the anime might have to, like, think of other ones as well. And we get the guidance counselor Hound Dog, and he forgets human speech and he's angry, and he basically just wants to talk about, like, don't fight at night, and, like, Vlad has to translate for him. And it's like, why is he the guidance counselor?
We didn't have a non-curricular guidance person. Would that be like a life counsellor? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the non-curricular part confuses me because we had guidance counselors in high school.
What's a guidance counsellor?
I guess it's kind of talking about, like, what you want to do after school a bit.
Oh, we had none of that.
And maybe you might get sent to them if, like, you got in trouble, you'd go to the guidance counselor.
None of that.
But the non-curricular part confuses me. I'm just like, what is Hound Dog doing? I think it's just him, it's like the bodyguard of the school.
Imagine going to him for life advice, or, like, I don't know, all I can think of is imagine if you get, like, pregnant as a teenager and you have to go to Hound Dog and he goes on this big, you can't understand what he's saying. That'd be awful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he has a heart of gold, though.
But I think I saw someone online to mention that he could be, like, a therapy dog. So that's why he's the counselor.
We do know from a bonus manga chapter, I think, talking about Vlad King, that he and Hound Dog are good friends, and they spend a lot of their spare time together.
Nice. Oh, and I did notice that there's one background character who has, like, a sledgehammer head, which is kind of cool. And we see we see a blue-haired girl is a gossip, or at least she has intel on the fighting, and she's kind of, like, bothering the blonde guy in front of her, being like, oh, did you hear about who was fighting? It was the first-year students. And I love her. And Eraserhead is saying the same thing as students, focus on being students. And Ashido tries to whisper, and Eraser goes, like, red glow, like, laser vision, like, what are you doing? It's like, whoa. He's the Terminator.
So stern.
Yes. And Sue wants to know what work studies are. Eraserhead's like, oh, they're like internships, but closer to the real thing. And Ochako gets pissed. She's like, why did I work so hard at the sports festival? If we get another chance, what the hell is this? She's a little rebel inside of her. And Eraserhead's like, okay, calm down. You need connections to the fourth sports festival to do it. It's at the discretion of the students, so, like, you do need those connections. But, like, I can just imagine if Ochako got, like, really mad, she could, like, make all the desks float and, like, throw them or something.
She gets really annoyed because she put so much effort in with her fight against Bakugo, but even if the sports festival wasn't important, I still don't think it should be the time to be like, it's not that important, I won't put that much effort in. Mm-hmm. You're a go-getter. Don't do yourself down.
Yeah. President Mike is just waiting outside like a dork, and the door slides open, he's just there, boom! And the first period is English. President Mike, an English teacher, would just yell at you, and I, like, wouldn't learn anything if someone's just yelling. Even though he's not yelling angrily, he's yelling, like, excitedly. If someone tried to yell French at me, I would not learn anything.
I think it would depend for me on the time of day. If it was if it was right at the start of the day or the end of the day, I'd be too tired. I don't have the energy for this. But, like, if it was just coming back from lunch or, like, some point in the midday when I had more energy and a teacher came in with that sort of level, I'd be like, yeah, I'm so hyped up. I'm going to learn it all.
Yeah, I'd be like, no. Oh, and I was actually wrong. Zero was clowning Ida earlier in the episode when he was being like, but you're not in line, like, being jokes, but then now he makes fun of Bakugo here, and it's like, I love that they can make fun of Bakugo. Yeah. And Mineta also gets in on it. Mineta is, like, whenever he's, like, not talking to girls, or, like, being a person, I'm okay with him. Like, he was fine this episode.
Yep.
they mentioned that President Mike's class was super hard, and I wrote President Mike as M-I-K-E, and I'm very sorry, President Mike. It'd be funny. I know his name isn't Mike, but it'd be funny if it was. And Jiro's kind of worried because she wasn't scouted. She wonders if she can even participate. Deku's kind of freaking out because one day he's already behind. Ida calls him Mr. House Arrest and does a sassy pose at him.
His pose reminded me of Bon Clay.
Oh, yeah. And he says that the teachers forbade them to tell them anything about what's going on, which seems kind of unfair, but Ida is actually pissed, and you need to fully feel the punishment and frustration. You too, Bakugo. And I guess it makes sense, because it basically is a suspension, but they live in res, so they can't really, make them go home.
Yeah.
And, okay, Deku leaves the house to throw out trash, and isn't that violating house arrest?
I guess it depends how far he's going, because he needs to clean it, doesn't he? So what's he going to do? Just, leave it outside for the rats and things to get it? It's not hygienic.
The principal just comes into the trash.
You threw out cheese!
Deku's falling behind, and someone's creeping on him, which is just, a head. It's what are you doing? It's just a face in the wall, nothing to see here. And Deku's what is happening? And then he appears from the ground, and he's, giving advice on the burnables. And he calls him an energetic first year, which shows he was listening to the blue-haired girl when she was talking. He's did I surprise you? It's that's what I was trying to do. I'm trying to, he should just have, a prank show or something. And he's you'll find out who I am soon enough. Next time on My Hero Academia.
He must have seen Izuku walking along and be I know how to get him.
Yeah.
I'll go into that building and freak him out.
He's lucky that Deku didn't think he was a villain and, smash him or something. Because, this poor kid has been through a lot. Just let him rest.
Oh.
And he turns in a written apology, and he does this very intense... I wonder if Razorhead actually read it.
Did you notice how big an apology was?
Yeah,
it was pages long. It was like he handed in an apology essay.
It probably just I'm sorry 20 million, 100 times. And Deku, he has he's a bowl, smoke coming from the nose. And he's I gotta catch up on those 3 days. And Kirishima likes the passion. And Razorhead does the scary face again, saying, back to your seats. But it is Razor was actually being nice and waiting for Deku to talk about the work studies, because screw Bakugo. The blonde guy walks in like a nerd. He's does a very much our movements. But he's very buff, he has scars on his arms, and he has his tongue out, and he looks like Tintin. And there's Elf Guy and Blue Hair Girl. We don't know, we know their names because of the manga, but I won't say their names yet. They're the big three. He's very buff, and I love him. And he also has a very big smile. And credits. And I thought this was the last episode, but there's one more episode.
I was distracted at the end by Izuku's uniform. I don't know how he gets away with wearing such a tiny tie. That's not uniform. It's uniform because you all look the same. One of these teachers needs to tell him off with his tie. That would never fly in the UK with uniform.
It is, I don't know why he ties it up like that. But then Bakugo doesn't even wear a tie, so he should also be reprimanded.
He wears a tie when he's in school, doesn't he?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, this is terrible. They're really lax with their uniform.
I need to look at Bakugo. I'm going to see if I don't think he wears... Or he wears his tie very loose.
That's not uniform. It's a uniform that isn't uniform.
Oh, yeah, he does not wear a tie.
I dislike this. But I do like our blonde-haired girl, who we shall not name, that she was wearing her vest jacket.
Blue hair.
Yeah, I liked her vest jacket. Not all the girls wear one. I think it looks good.
Yay. And I know some people call the elf-haired guy Sasuke, kind of, but he's not really Sasuke at all. He just has black hair. I'm kind of excited for the big three, but, it's going to be a weird place to end the third season, I feel like.
I think they might talk a bit more about Overhaul, but I'm glad we saw Overhaul in this episode. As a side note, I've been really impressed with people on Twitter because the vast majority of manga readers haven't really spoiled anything for the upcoming arc. For the anime viewers, they've just been hyping it and saying that they'll love one character in particular. So I've been really impressed by that. That's really nice, guys.
Yay! I know people are saying, like, oh, Kirishima, like, there's gonna be some cool moments of characters. I definitely have retweeted certain characters that we haven't seen at all yet, who I think is really cool. But I don't know how good I am about tweeting spoilers for manga stuff. So sorry if I spoil people. I'll try to be better about it. I don't know.
A lot of people have just said names, and I don't think names are a spoiler, but
Yeah.
the only thing I had to point out or ask actually about the second part is, you know, when Ojiro's pulling that face because Kaminari's rubbing his tail?
Yeah.
That's really, I wonder if he asked him if he could stroke his tail, because that's one of his limbs. Imagine you were standing there and someone just started stroking your arm, because Ojiro's pulling a really, like, funny face. So either he's really enjoying the tail rub, or he's like, oh, why is this guy playing with me?
Or just, like, playing with your hair or something. It's super weird. I think, like, in the manga, he was, like, almost touching it, so he was kind of, like, looking at it, but it's like, don't just... Yeah, I don't think he asked. I think he just kind of got bored and was like, this is in my face. I'm gonna, like, floof it.
Yeah, because Kirishima's giving him a real shocked face from behind, but he's really caressing him.
Like, please just let him live. He has a tail. Like, you should just have a sign, like, do not touch my tail, or I get to whack you with said tail. What do you think of the episode overall?
I loved the Twice bit. I think they did it very well, and I'm glad that, considering it was quite small in the manga, so like in the second half, I think they fit like 2.5 chapters in. Or I guess it's one half of another, so it's like 2 chapters in one half. But it's only part of one chapter at the start, and I think it needed that. And I really liked it, because in the manga, the second voice of Twice only argues with him 3 times. But it's a lot more in the anime, and I think it does really well at getting across the troubles that Twice is having.
I was kind of worried the anime wasn't going to have it at all. So I'm really glad they found a way to, like, still put it in to kind of, like, get the intrigue at the start, being like, what's going on? And kind of like, ooh, this is dark. And then it kind of cuts, like, back to the students. And, like, it's, like, more, like, it's still serious, but it's still, like, it's just student stuff. So it's kind of, like, contrasting. And then we get the hype up of the big 3. And it's kind of like, what, like, we've literally never heard about this. What does this mean? Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The second half I wasn't as into, but I think that's just because I enjoyed the first half so much. I thought it was so well done.
That's how I felt too. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of wanted to stay with that. Because, like, I guess the villains are more interesting at this point because the students are kind of back doing student stuff again.
Yeah, for the students, they're just, well, for the students and the villains, they're setting up what's going to happen, but it's less interesting, I would say, for the students at the moment. Yeah.
We had a good overhaul tease and being like, what's this? Like, what is his what's his quirk?
How would you rank the episode? What would you give it?
I'm gonna give it, one face it out of a wall out of a face in the wall. So I thought it was really good. Like, I enjoyed it, like, the entire way. There's no points where I was, like, bored or kind of like, what's happening? I thought it was a good mix of, like, intense and also, like, a bit of comedy. I think I enjoyed it overall. I don't really have any complaints.
No, me neither. I think I'd give it a 4 out of 5 just because the second half I wasn't as hyped about, and I can't keep giving episodes 5 out of 5 just because they don't have filler in.
Yeah. I guess, like, it does a good job, like, compared to something like One Piece where it'll have, like, pad out moments or something. This, at least, like, I think maybe it still does that a little bit here, but I think it's just, like, it all flows really well. And I think it's also just that they don't have to keep going forever. They have, like, okay, we're gonna have this episodes are cut off. We'll try to fit in as much as we can, and then we can do the next in the next season. I hope, like, the next episode ends and we get, like, a season 4 is coming out at this time to, like, reassure us.
I mean, season 4, they'll definitely do a season 4, but I don't know if they'll know when it will be, because it's such a battle-heavy arc, the next one. That's going to be difficult to animate.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be, like, fall 2019?
Yeah.
That's a long time. I don't think it'll be spring 2019. It'll probably be, like, summer, maybe?
I'm perfectly happy to wait however long it needs to be, if it carries on as the same quality as the other 3 seasons, which I'm sure it will be.
Pretty much. Oh, do you think they'll find a way to sneak in the weird guy in the theme song? Who is, like, the teeth?
Okay, so if people don't know what we're talking about, this is a discussion that's been had on Twitter. There's a character in the opening sequence that has very large teeth that are shown, and he hasn't appeared at all in the series yet, so this is the guy that we're talking about. I don't know. I don't know if he... So my theory was that he was maybe a side filler character that was created and they cropped out, but...
But then why would they keep him in? Because they made the decision really late or something?
I don't know. Could he be a joke or an OVA character created by the animation team that they wanted to put in as a little joke to themselves?
Maybe. I think it probably is most likely they just cut him and we'll just keep it in because it's he looks like a villain. He looks interesting, and there's all these new students at the exam, so it's he's kind of representing all of that without revealing anything. Or maybe the next episode will just have this we'll have a random villain prominently shown. I don't know. It doesn't. Maybe cool if there was an OVA or something. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird because he was so prominently featured as kind of hype, setting up the beginning of the intro.
If we ever find out, we will share that information on Twitter.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not in the manga, yeah. Just so people aren't why are you wondering about it? It's no, he's not in the manga. It's just Tooth Guy. Who is he? What's the secret?
Yeah. Okay, so is that the end of our anime?
Yep, let's move on to the next segment.
This is my Hero Academia. This is Manga News and more. Blossom Drop. Ooh, they're my Hero Academia.
Hello and welcome back to episode 15 of the My Hero Academia podcast. We're going to be doing an interview with our special guest Ash, who is, as we mentioned earlier, is a YouTuber, a editorial writer, and I would say a Twitter personality.
Thank you very much.
How would you introduce yourself? Have I missed anything out?
No, not really. I mean, I guess I'll do a little quick intro of my own, if you don't mind here. So basically, I was a big anime manga fan for most of my life. I started off when I was a kid watching the terrible 4Kids dubs of all the popular shows back then, like Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh, all those things. And then I kind of kept that up in junior high school. And sadly, I didn't have very many friends that were into it at the time, so my interest kind of went in little waves up and down until about high school. I got back into it a little bit more seriously, and I really kind of fell really hard back into it in university. And then I used to, basically skulk around all the different forums online, talking with the different series. And then I finally decided, why not try jumping in and trying to find other fans of it. And it just so coincides with the time that the One Piece podcast was looking for editorial writers. So I applied and got in, and that was the same time I joined Twitter.
Nice.
And it's been an exponential increase in my fandom since then. So it's been a hell of a ride and a hell of an experience so far.
Yay. Or I'm kind of curious, have you been on, I know you editorial, but have you been on any episodes? Because I'd be interested in going back and listening.
No, I was on one anime recap a long time ago, but usually the problem is that the times that they record at is usually when I'm busy in the evening, so the times haven't really meshed up yet. I'm still going to try to get on eventually. Maybe in the next year or two I'll try to find a time that works for me, but yeah, real life has kept me busy so far.
Yeah, time zones are fun. That's what we've learned doing this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Jump into the questions now. How did you get into My Hero Academia?
Oh man, this was back when I was first getting into manga again. So I was looking at all the popular series, and I was just kind of going through a bunch of different ones at the time. And I was kind of looking for new series because every time I started a new series, I'd blaze through it in about a couple of weeks or a few months. So I was kind of just Googling, what's the best shonen manga to read, or just what's the best manga in general to read. And My Hero Academia was one of the names that kept popping up like on quite a few different sites. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you have to really get in to this new series. And I kind of had like the effect that it has on like One Piece fans initially when they get into it. Well, like, the art style and things kind of threw you off. And I think I tried to get into My Hero about 3 times before it finally stuck, because every time I started the first chapter, the art always just kind of threw me off. I'm like, oh, this is a little bit too weird for me. I don't know if I can, really get into this, but I'm glad I stuck it through and finally managed to get through it. And ever since, I've been pretty much hooked since then.
Nice. I remember, like, the art style reminded me a little bit of Haikyuu with, like, the way he drew teeth, if that makes sense. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Where were you in the series when you first started in your bouts of on and off? Where were you?
Oh, boy. I think by the time I caught up, I got to the sports festival arc. So I think I caught up around then, and I've been reading week to week, because I got my Shonen Jump Viz subscription in 2015, and I've been basically following along with it ever since then.
Oh, I think we caught up around the same time, because I know I caught up during the Bakugo Uraraka fight.
Yeah, I think I was close to there when I caught up. I think it was like right when the Shinso fight was going on, I caught up, so that might explain why I'm such a big fan of his, and I'm excited to have him back in the current manga arc.
Yay!
Well, you're not alone there. He's a favourite character of a lot of people. So, is he your number one, do you think?
Oh, I think he ranks up there pretty high. Like, ever since he was introduced, I've been kind of waiting for him to get back. Because I've kind of made the reference that he's basically like Kilgrave from Jessica Jones. I'm not sure how many people are actually going to get that reference, but in that series, there's a guy called the Purple Man. And he basically had the same powers where he could use his voice to control other people and make them do whatever he wanted. Except unlike Shinso, he basically went into the pure evil direction. He'd basically play with people, go to restaurants and get the best tables, get money, and do whatever he wanted. So I kind of found it intriguing that you have Shinso, who's the exact opposite, where, all the perceptions of him are, if I had a power like that, I'd just be straight up totally evil. And what do you do if you have a kid that doesn't want to do that, but everyone just thinks, of course he's going to abuse that power because it would be so easy to do so. So
it's a cool twist, and it's also kind of, I was thinking, like, he's a bit different than Kilgrave because he doesn't work through electronics, like his control. Well, Kilgrave, I think, could. And I wonder, like, is there a person that's his Jessica Jones, somebody he can't control?
That would be interesting. I kind of want to say Midoriya just because of what happened after the sports festival arc. You might have a harder time controlling him again, but I don't know, maybe we'll see, because I think they're matched up in the current arc, they're matched up in the sports in the 2 class arguments, so I'm hoping we get to see him try to control Deku again and see how that goes down.
I almost think that Horikoshi might, like, we're all expecting it, so he'll do something else instead. That he'll focus, because he knows Deku can get out of it, so he might actually target someone else. Like, I'm ready to be, like, completely thrown off.
Yeah.
And we were wondering, what quirk would you have? Do you think you'd go with Shinso's quirk, or what would you want?
Oh no, if I had Shinso's quirk, I'm gonna straight up admit I would be, like, totally evil. I just abuse the hell out of it, so that's probably the worst quirk to give to me. I don't know, like, just given my personality, I'd probably go with something physical related, like either Deku or the muscle guy from the hero training arc. If not, the other 2 powers I've kind of always thought were cool were either something ice related or some kind of gravity powers.
What does that say about you then, that you want the, with your personality, you said you wanted the strong ones?
It's just...
What type of villain would you be?
Oh man, I don't know if I should even get into that. What kind of villain would I be?
What would your villain name be?
I don't know. I've never been good with coming up with names. Like, I'd have to think about that. It's a good question, though.
Because I feel like
what kind of... Sorry, no, I was gonna say, if I was a villain, I probably would be just the one that, like, breaks into banks and just, takes the money to live a lavish lifestyle, but I don't think I'd go, like, into overhaul territory where I'm like terrorizing people or committing murders or anything like that. So
Torturing young children.
exactly, yeah.
We would hope not. I think like everyone's like, oh, I feel like most people wouldn't be heroes because it's a lot of bravery and like I feel like being a villain maybe is brave as well because you gotta like fight people, but if you just like sneak and do it fast, like that's what I would do because like I would not have the guts to fight or to like on the good side or the bad side.
Yeah.
I would just sit at home with my quirk and be like, I'm gonna make things easier for myself here, but who knows?
You have a lot of theories on One Piece.
Yes.
Do you have any My Hero Academia theories?
The only one I currently have going right now is I'm hoping that Endeavor's whole abusive past comes back to bite him in the butt. Because this is the thing, like with Hawks, we saw him in his little flashback. We know he comes from, if not an abusive household, at least like a downtrodden one. Mm-hmm. And we know that he idolized Endeavor for whatever reason when he was a kid. So I'm hoping that either Endeavor leaks the information himself or Hawks ends up being the one to do it. Because I know everyone right now thinks that Dobby is like, Endeavor's lost son. We're going to find out that, their family and he's going to be the one to leak it. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like it would be more impactful if a hero was to actually leak that information because he'd be taken more seriously. Mm-hmm. And to see Hawks do it because of his relationship with Endeavor, to kind of see his idolization of him flail, I think would kind of make for a good story. Mm. So, but that's what my only other one. I think the only other one I kind of support that's not my own personal theory was I was watching the anime and I was catching up. And I don't know how long ago, someone was saying that Ioma might be quirkless.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was watching the anime and they have that scene in his flashback where, he's talking to his parents. He's like, why am I different? Like, what's wrong with me? And then you flash back to him a little bit later when he's got, that little laser belt that he always wears. And the fact that he's like, I just want to be accepted. I want to be equal to everyone else. Yeah. And I've never really considered it before, but I'm like, that really seems to be hinting at the idea that he might be quirkless. And maybe that's why he's so, close to Deku or trying to at least build a friendship with him is he might feel a kind of kinship with him, so.
I think it's like the belt has the quirk, or that maybe
exactly.
Someone put it into him, like Deku had a quirk put into him, maybe All For One put the quirk in him.
Yeah, that's the two theories, like someone was saying, maybe All For One gave him the quirk, and like the belt is just a way for him to like focus the power and concentrate it. Mm-hmm. And then some others are saying, it might just be the belt, which is why we never see him using the quirk without it. Mm-hmm. It could just be possible that, his quirk just doesn't work without the belt because he can't, control it or use it properly or whatever, but it's definitely something interesting to consider going forward because he's certainly building up a lot of mystery around Ioma recently, so I'm hoping that pays off in more than just, he's just a mysterious character, but it'll be interesting to see what direction he takes that.
No, I was just going to say I really supported that theory up until... I mean, I know he says that he uses the belt because otherwise his power leaks out through his belly button and it's corrosive. But I still thought, maybe he'd be quirkless until I think one of the chapters he poops himself. And I was like, no one's that committed to putting up a front that they would poop themselves. But I'd be happy to be proven wrong. But I mean, I think I'm committed, but not that far.
Yeah, so I was going to say someone else pointed out that, he did say he also gets... like the stomach pains from using his quirk too much. So they're wondering like, is that again something he's just faking or is that like an actual side effect of his quirk? It'd be an interesting contrast because we know Deku now actually has an actual quirk, despite him being quirkless, but to have someone, that doesn't have that and is using technology to kind of fake his way through it, I think that'd make for a really interesting story as well.
Mm-hmm. We're wondering, what was your favorite arc?
Oh boy, I think so far, number one for me is always going to be the Stain arc. Mm-hmm. Just because I love his fight with Ida, Deku, and Todoroki. And just that one scene, where after he gets captured, he breaks free to take out the Nomu, and then he comes back. and he manages to intimidate some of the most powerful heroes in the entire organization through just pure bloodlust, and he's totally unconscious the entire time he's doing it. I don't think anything I've seen in the series so far will top that for me.
Mm-hmm. Is there any themes or events that you would like to see happen in the future?
Oh, well, this is something I kind of talked about on Twitter, but I'd like to kind of see Bakugo dealing with his anger management issues. This is something I was brought up yesterday when I was catching up with the anime that had the episode, Deku versus Bakugo 2.0, where Bakugo's talking about, how frustrated he was that he wasn't strong enough to protect All Might. And of course, the way he deals with those feelings is to take Deku out into the middle of the training ground and beat the crap out of him. So I'm kind of hoping that, because All Might even mentioned after that, he failed Bakugo because he didn't take his mental health into account. So I feel like that, again, could be something interesting to explore, see Bakugo kind of dealing with the kind of trauma of what it feels like to be a hero and have gone through, all the traumatic events they've gone through so far, because I don't think that's something they usually typically address in a lot of just, like, American superhero comics. Like, the heroes always go through, like, they fight the bad guys and they go through crisis after crisis, but I don't think a lot of them really address the fact of, like, what that does to them mentally, having to do, live that double life and put up with these crises constantly. So if Hori kind of went down that path, I think that would make for a good kind of contrast from American comics to what he's trying to do with My Hero Academia.
I think that is pretty likely because, like, it has kind of come up with, like, the villains with the kind of talking about, like, crazy. I'm doing quotation marks here, and kind of like how what makes a villain makes a hero, and like I think it would be good to kind of just like actually really like full frontally address it with Bakugo and kind of like he does this, but it's not cute. Yeah. It's not like it's just like it's something you need to address, and it's not just just let it run rampant. You can't be a hero and act like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think he would go to Vlad King? No, it's not Vlad King. It's Hound Dog, who's the non-curricular guidance counsellor. He'd go for him for counselling.
I don't know if Bakugo would willingly go to counselling. I feel like that'd be something you have to be dragged kicking and screaming into. But it'd be kind of interesting if it'd be an interesting character growth thing for him if you went, willingly to him to try to learn to manage it, but at the stage he's at right now, I don't know if that's something he'd be willing to do himself, but I'm always willing to be surprised, so...
They should have all been told to go to at least one counselling session after Kamino.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm really hoping that I know people, like, he might get teamed up with the bunny girl, and like, she seems like kind of like very fighty, I don't know how to word it, but they might have similar personalities. So maybe he could talk to her and she could be like, what are you doing? This is how you should do it. Like, she might I want someone to call him out on it, someone that he respects, and that, like, but also isn't like All Might, that he's like way higher than him. Someone who's like a pro hero, but he could be like, oh wait. And everything can like click for him, because he's kind of slowly realizing it. And now he just needs someone to really just look at him and be like, what are you doing? I think that's all of our questions.
This is my hero academia. This is manga news and more. Blossom drop. Ooh, they're my hero academia.
Okay, so this is the manga segment for manga chapter 199, entitled Operation New Improv Moves. So we're starting with a flashback here from Tokiyami's time with Hawks. Hawks is standing on top of a pillar. His feathers have got a villain, and on the other side he's carrying a briefcase. He's saying, too slow. He always finishes the job on his own. Apparently, this was the first year he scouted someone from the sports festival. So this is Tokiyami's narrative there. And he's running after two heroes ahead of him.
So cute! He's so tiny!
He looks like Sparrow, the Pokemon.
Yeah,
Oh, he's a baby.
He's huffing and puffing to keep up with his peers. And Hawks is saying the next stop is the Cantina Bar, where they've got a customer going wild. You guys handle the rest here. And Cantina Bar, that's another Star Wars reference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also the guy he's holding is like Jason movie reference, like Jason.
Yeah, from Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that film.
I haven't actually seen it. I just know during Halloween people put on like the goalie masks and you just like act scary. He's just a serial killer.
Oh, just a serial killer.
Yeah, just that. So I've talked a lot about like the Halloween movie with Michael Moore or whatever. So I have that on the brain, but that's not Jason.
I don't think it's Michael Moore. I think Michael Moore is the documentary filmmaker, not a serial killer.
What's the guy in Halloween then?
I have to look. Michael Myers, I think, is it.
Michael Myers.
Is it Myers? I have to make sure, because that sounds like Austin
right.
Powers, and I don't want to say like Mike Myers from Austin Powers is a serial killer.
It's Michael Myers. I think
There we go.
I was trying not to say Mike Myers, and instead I said Michael Moore. I'm sorry, Michael Moore, you're not a serial killer. Mike Myers.
That we know of, anyway.
Horror movies are... I don't watch them. I don't know what any of their names are. It's a goalie mask. And he even has, like, the knee pads and stuff.
Okay.
I also... It looks like... He's, like, tip-tapping his feet, so I don't know if he's impatient or if he just landed.
Oh, it could be both. He's just landed and he wants to get going.
Yeah.
So the two other heroes in front of Tokiyami are saying, "Yep, we sidekicks are mostly on cleanup duty. Hawks is just too damn quick." But he says this way is the most efficient. We can see Hawks flying off in the distance saying, "Can't stand around yapping," while the next... Oh, what's that word?
Crisis.
Thank you. While the next crisis is getting worse. Tokiyami's thinking to himself, "During my internship, I struggled to keep up, always dealing with the aftermath of his efforts. I started to question why Hawks chose me at all." And so he's asking Hawks why, and he's saying, "'Cause we're birds of a feather." Tokiyami's thinking, is that meant to be funny? And Hawks says, "I'm 20% serious, and half of me just wanted to chat with a kid from 1A. But just wanted to chat with a kid from 1A about those punks who attacked you guys, the League of Villains." And Tokiyami is not impressed. He's just having an ellipses moment. Hawks saying, "And wouldn't you know it? There you were skilled, sharp-looking, cream of the crop, a fellow bird who could properly keep up with me." Tokiyami carries on thinking to himself, "As he interrogated me on the details of the USJ attack, I grew more and more frustrated. I'm no dumb carrier pigeon." Yeah, you tell him. My week-long internship ended, and I learned nothing. And he's going back to school then, and they're asking what happened.
How did things go in Kyoshu? They didn't, so, like, nothing happened. Like, nothing happened! He's doing a Zorro moment, even though nothing happened.
And then he's thinking back, he's saying, "Then, for my work study, he took me under his wing again. There's been plenty happening at UA. You're just hoping to squeeze that information out of me, aren't you, Hawks?" So Hawks is on the phone, but Tokiyami runs up behind him. "Don't insult me, number 3. I mean, number 2 hero." And that's a great picture of him with dark shadow cloaking him as he's rushing through.
Yeah, jumping from streetlight to streetlight.
And the sidekicks are watching saying, "Little Tsukiyami?"
That's his hero name.
Oh, okay, thank you. "Little Tsukiyami is strutting his stuff." Everyone's saying, "Oh, he's come a long way." And Tokiyami's just staring at Hawks furiously as Hawks turns around and just sort of laughs at him.
Aww.
He's just saying, "Heh, good work today." And then he goes up behind Tokiyami afterwards because he looks like he's trying to go home. He says, "Hey, Tokiyami." Next panel, he's bear hugging him forwards, carrying him up into the air. I wonder if there was no gap between him. He just went, "Hey, Tokiyami," just gave him a big hug and flew him up into the air.
Yeah, surprise.
He's saying, "Hey, how about a nice flight?" while they're flying. Tokiyami is not too impressed. He's saying, "Hawks, it's like we've become one with the wind."
Oh, he's so cute.
What a way to phrase it. You've just been brought up into the air. That's
edgelordy, but in like a childish way. So it's like very cute.
Hawk said, "Is this first time flying, I take it?" That final 30%, I saw you in action, Tokiyami, and thought, what a waste. Being up in the sky is a great thing. You've got a bird's eye view of the world. Tokiyami's confused, but Hawks carries on. Not that I'm much for training the next generation or whatever. And so they've landed now on the top of the tower. And Tokiyami says, a waste? What do you mean by waste? Hawks continues, focusing on close combat. It's fine to cover for your weaknesses, but don't forget to improve on your real talents. Let yourself move freely. Listen, from one bird bud to another. Those who can fly should.
Oh, yeah. And I love his wings. Like, every shot of his wings are just amazing.
Such a beautiful skyline shot.
Yeah.
Hawks is in the running now to become my number one favorite character. Just love everything about him.
Exactly, and like he's just mysterious enough that you like don't quite know what he's on about, but he just like he's funny and he's like he doesn't take himself too seriously, which I love.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And then he also says, "Why keep yourself grounded?" And then we cut back. I love that we can see like the black flashback black fade to the white. It says, "Black fallen shadow sounds cool. Why don't you show me?" And sorry, I gotta do the voices. And
I'm liking it.
Momo is doing running commentary, even though she's literally right there. He's shifting through the shadows. And Aoyama, can I do a French accent? Another solo attacker! How unexpected! I'm not going to do voices.
No, I love it.
No,
I feel like all of France is
going.
going to come. France is going to get mad at you. You're closer to France than I am.
I'm English. France is angry at me anyway. Everyone hates us.
And Ojiro, says, this is like the last match, because it is like kind of one person rushing in. And Todoroki says, they're messing with our expectations, because I guess you'd kind of expect them to do something else. And there's a lot of capes, and in his own full of pipes, pinning down his location is next to impossible. I can't tell if it's Momo or not. You alright, Tokoyami? Yes. And he thinks to himself, this is, Kuro talking. Fumikage Tokoyami, I'm gonna wear you like a suit. That's such a creepy line.
Yeah.
And Tokoyami thinks to himself, he's going after me. I'm his natural prey. And then we get the creepiest shot of Kuro ever.
Looks like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, or
Yeah, he does.
Kuro Sensei from Assassination Classroom, how he's just like a smile.
Yeah.
You would think that, class, eh? The psychological trap was set before the match even began. And it's like, what is this Death Note stuff? And we get a flashback to exactly that, him just seeing like to relate to Tokoyami. And then he grabs Aoyama. And we learn his name is Vanta Black. And I want to shout out Caleb. He's on Twitter at CD3. He's the translator, and apparently Vanta Black is like the darkest black possible or something. It's used for art. And Thorn is thinking, this boy is in need of radical reform. And Aoyama's like, help! And he has blood! And he's like screaming the entire time. And with my speed in this tangled maze of battleground, the tether between Dark Shadow and Tokoyami will hinder their movement, meaning those Class A fools have no way to hunt me down. Is that what you thought? And we get this is very Death Note, Dark Shadow, Black Fallen Angel! And he's flying, and he's doing like the opposite Wakanda pose. He's doing it downwards.
Alright, so next one, everyone, Class B's freaking out, going, he's flying! It's like Dark Shadow is always floating, so it can pick me up and carry me around. So it's just like Dark Shadow hides under his cape, and Tokoyami's doing his best Superman pose. And I should have called this out earlier, but seeing Hawks carry him around like that really reminded me of Superman, where he does the same for Lois Lane. Maybe that was just another, superhero reference that Horikoshi was making.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Tokoyami like, get it done, Dark Shadow. I was like, yeah. okay, if it doesn't have a theme song for this, I'm gonna be really, really disappointed in the anime.
Just like,
Honestly, the first thing that came to mind was the Batman theme song. I was like, na 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 Tokuyami.
Birdman.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, don't forget to improve your real talents. It's like, I appreciate it, Hawks. It's like, but how? It's like, the sky's no longer the limit. And then he grabs Ioma from his grasp and, flies off. And he oozes back into the darkness and he goes, Plan A is a bust. So then Momo finally starts moving and she goes, Ioma, use naval buffet. That's such a great name for a move. Like, wow. It's like, keep flying about Tokoyami. It's like, enough to alter every shadow around. Then Tokoyami shouts, like, dark shadow under my cape, now. He's like, gotcha. I was like, and then Ioma just starts firing off a bunch of lasers. Now I'm wondering, is Tokoyami just like flipping them around then to get sure the laser just flies everywhere?
I think so. I noticed he's doing it from his knee. Did we know before he could do his lasers from other parts of his body? Like, I know it's his belly, but he's redirecting it using his suit.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like new upgrade he got from like the development group. Like he got ways to like spin the lasers out from other parts, but that's interesting.
Because it looks like there is a connecty line going back from that knee to. So I think it is.
Yeah, it looks like there's a strip, like a wire strip or something going towards it.
I think they can come out of his elbow pads as well, it looks like.
Yeah, it's got some near his elbows and near his shoulders. It looks like he's got a few more in there.
But look at his pose. Like, he has his hands on his chin.
Oh, they're his hands. For a second I thought they were his chest plates, and I thought they looked like boobs.
Oh, I love Aoyama so much. I'm surprised he isn't still screaming.
And they're going, the shadows are shifting, and you see the lasers just bouncing off all the different, metal pipes and everything. He's like, which means, and then he pops out the shadows. He's like, there he is, Hagakure. He's like, awesome, he's mine now. He's like, I was quite prepared to expect the unexpected. And then a mushroom grows out of her nose.
It makes me think of One Piece.
Yeah, exactly. Same thought I had. It's like, knew it. It's like, all this lights means Kurohiro failed. It's like, heh. Now time for plan B. Kendo's already a step ahead. Mushrooms for all. Everywhere, shroom. And then to be continued.
She escaped from Whole Cake Island. I'm surprised there was no, mushroom people.
Yeah.
What is Hagakure going to do?
Honestly, I feel like it has to be something else light-related, because up to this point, I always thought her quirk was just that she was born invisible. And someone pointed out recently that no, her quirk actually has something to do with the light refraction. So she's actually making herself invisible by refracting light. So that's probably guessing that's what she's going to do to the shadow guys, lock him in kind of like light prison of some kind to make sure there's no shadows around he can escape into. Well, that's my best guess.
I'm so ready for Hagakure to have a chapter about herself. Give me Hagakure the origins. Literally, we know nothing about her.
Yeah, well, except this popular theory that she's the traitor in UA.
And I think it does make sense, and not just because she's invisible, but she was. I think Kel's pointed out she wasn't there in when they were selecting the class president, and we don't know where she was during certain scenes, and I just want an explanation about her.
Yeah.
Or for her to do things. I want her to do things.
Yeah. I hope she's not the villain though, just because similar to Shinso, invisibility would be such a good quirk for a villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at this point, if she's not the traitor, then he's just writing her poorly and not giving her a chance to do things. But I guess there are so many students that's kind of harsh, but at the same time...
I mean, it's a fair criticism because he really doesn't give the girls a lot to do in the series. There's a few arcs that kind of focused on them. Momo got one way in the beginning with her and Todoroki, but we haven't really gotten anything else for the others. Ashido had part of an arc within Kirishima's arc, but we haven't really got solo ones for any of them yet.
And during the overhaul arc, they didn't get to do anything.
Oh yeah, they all get to, he gave us a dragon lady, and she didn't get involved in the fight until the end, and I'm still holding that against him.
Yeah.
Next chapter might be a good one for the girls because it looks like this chapter's focused on Momo and Kendo, and hopefully we'll see something from Hagakure. And this last panel of Mushroom Quirk, sorry, I forgot her name. Her face reveal is that, oh, I love it.
It's cool.
Yeah.
But I have no confidence. It's going to be chapter 200. In episode 100, it was a boob fall. So it's going to be something ass-related. I do not believe that.
Oh, I hope not.
It's going to be boobs or asses in chapter 200. I can, guarantee it. Because I don't really know. He doesn't seem to really do any, big moments for those. So, yeah, I'm calling it now. Someone's getting an ass to the face. Because
I'm holding out hope, and I'm fine with tits and ass. I don't mind, as long as there's some cool moves in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ash, how'd you feel about the chapter overall?
Oh, I enjoyed this. Getting Hawks in any chapter is always good, but other than that, getting some more focus on Tokoyami is always nice, and seeing how the quirks have developed, since we saw them in their when they're developing their ultimate moves. And seeing how they've started advancing, it's really nice. I'm just hoping he does give the ladies more focus because Momo hasn't really had much to do for a while. And given that, what's his face, the copying quirk guy from Class B said that, Kendo's supposed to be the class president. I'm hoping that this comes down to a showdown of smarts between her and Momo, which I'd love to see, so I'm hoping that's what it comes down to is all the women are the ones, throwing down in this arc and the men are just kind of off doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm. Sophie?
I'd love it if it was a battle of smarts. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the start with Hawks. I wonder when it started, that his subterfuge, when that plan started, because him being interested in Tokoyami and finding out about the League of Villains, was that just because he was at that point the number 3 hero and he wanted to find out what's going on, or was he already part of the plan even then?
Yeah, or if he is actually a traitor. That's what I was thinking, that the traitor could be Tokoyami accidentally, or it could be that any of the other students who got internships also told the people they were with about stuff. Because the only thing is that because the traitor, I think there was something at the start when the press got in, and then somebody found the schedule to find out All Might was going to be there. So that's too early, but then maybe that was just the villains acting on their own, and then afterwards they started getting intel from somebody. So I do wonder if, the Hero Association accidentally just, picked the already double agent and just made him triple or double agent, I don't know.
What if he'd, wiretapped Tokoyami's phone so he could find out the location?
Just, put a tracker on him. That easy.
Yeah.
Because, I want to believe Hawks is good, because, he actually seems, really interesting, and I'm glad that that this chapter, it wasn't just him being oh, I'm going to show you how to do this cool move. It was kind of just him being oh, you can expand this. And, Tokoyami just, literally does what he did. I'm just going to have, instead of Hawks carrying me, I'll have Dark Shadow carry me. Because, everyone was expecting wings, and instead it's just, floating.
I think Tokoyami and Aoyama together are a great duo because Tokoyami's so deadpan and serious and emo, and Aoyama's such a glittering, over-the-top weirdo. I just love weirdos.
Yeah, they're a perfect contrast.
There's a comic book characters, it's Dagger and Cloak and Dagger, and Cloak kind of has Aoyama, he has, he can, suck people into him, suck them into the abyss, and then Dagger is this, girl dressed in all white, and she has, light powers, but I don't know, how, I don't think she's quite, absurd like Aoyama is sometimes, but it makes me think of that they could be a good team-up. They could be, Bird and Buffoon.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, Aoyama, I do love you. But for me, I think overall it was a good chapter. I liked seeing the Hawk stuff, even if it did make me kind of raise some traitor flares for me. And the actual fight, I just loved the little bit where he was faking him out, trying to make him think that he would fight him. But it does feel a little bit we're building up to a fight again. So it feels like the last few chapters of this fight are going to be like the really cool moments. And it's like kind of like, it is feeling a little too similar to the previous fight right now.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think, but like the basics of it are.
But this fight is much. It seems like they're the team from 1B have got much more of a plan in place. They've really thought about things. They don't just have one idea. They've got probably more than two plans. And not only that, but they're all on the same page as well. They all know the different plans and how they can work together. Whereas previously, 1A and 1B, neither of them really had a plan. And their plan, they weren't all in on it together. So Vines didn't really know. She was kept out of the loop. But here they're working really dynamically to set something up.
The thing is with that, it's kind of like the grab one person, so that's Thorn Girl grabbing Kaminari, and it turns out the person you grabbed, or help was controlling you, zaps you. But then, like, they reverse that, and then they do it again. He grabs Aoyama reverses it. And then, I guess that part, but I guess the whole point is to capture people, so you do have to, like, single out people.
It might also be that they're trying to set up, Class 1B's trying to set up the expectation that they're going to use a similar tactic for every fight to kind of get Class 1A to be complacent, so when they flip the script on them in, like, the later fights, it catches them by surprise, but maybe I'm reading too much into that.
Maybe not. I think, like, Kendo is definitely, like, this fight is reminding me of the filler fight between Sai and Momo, with both people kind of, like, trying to outthink each other and trying to predict what the other person would do. Yeah. And I wonder if it might have, like, a similar ending at all. Who knows?
I don't know, but I'm enjoying the twists and turns. I love seeing fights where they use their brain. I mean, all-out slugfests are great. Yeah. But the mental fight arithmetic that's gone in here, and hopefully will continue. Well, I'm sure it will do, because it's Momo.
And I really want to see the manga guys in this fight.
Yes.
Yes, I want to see him. I want to see all of them. Because Class B right now is Manga Guy, Kendo, Mushroom, Kuro, and it's 4 people, right?
Yeah, they're both teams of 4.
Ah, okay. So who knows what will happen next? Dun, 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 dun. The villains attack! Probably not.
Does anyone have anything left in this manga chapter, or shall we sign out?
I think we're done, unless anyone else has something to say.
Nope, I think I'm good.
Cool. Ash, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at King Cocoa Butter. So if you want to just, look at my profile, you can find my links to YouTube and everything else there. If you want to find my editorials, you can just go to the One Piece podcast and just kind of scroll down. Right now, I'm kind of the only one that's been putting out content. So if you look at the editorial section, the last, I think 3 or 4 are all just my work. So if you just click on my name, it'll kind of take you to everything else I've written. Just do a little plug here. So I'm probably working on an editorial right now that I'm going to try to get out this week, and hopefully it'll be out relatively soon after that. It's the longest one I've ever worked on by far. It's like double the length of what I typically write, and I typically write 3,000 word editorials.
I was going to say they're lengthy.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so I'll be putting that out soon, so I'd say look forward to that, but it's probably also going to make a lot of One Piece fans mad at me.
The one where you said, like, Crocodile was gonna be on the crew. I don't think I ever finished that one, because I was just like, no! But I understand, I think I did try to read through it before, and I get why you think it, but at the same time, no.
Yeah, that's my crazy theory. I'm not giving up on it yet, but I realize how untenable it is.
But, who knows?
Yeah.
Kendra, where can we find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Sniper of My Heart, where I love My Hero Academia, but apparently I'm just a Jinbei person. Like, so my... I'm sorry about that. You should watch One Piece and learn who Jinbei is, so you can know what my avatar is.
I'm Sophie, and I'm on Twitter.
You are Twitter!
I'm Sophie, and I'm on Twitter at Chopper's Antlers. You can find us on our website, www.mhapod.com. We're on Twitter at mhapod. We're also on Reddit, Tumblr, and even Pinterest.
Have you posted anything on Pinterest yet?
I do.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of people use Pinterest, and I want to get the images I create out there because I'm quite proud of them.
Oh my god. I need to do a My Hero Academia cosplay so that we can have something on Pinterest. Don't forget to go beyond.
Plus
Ultra!
Ultra!
Yay! And that's all.